Throughout my short but painful years, I've learned many important lessons, but none hit harder than what I realized after walking away from everything I've ever known. You never truly know how impactful one singular change can be. No matter the pain wrought or the power held, change is always an option. And more often than not, sadly, the salvation you've been running from. Whether through dedication, belief in one's cause, or even just acceptance. We hold on to ideals that break us in the end, wondering how or where things went so wrong, when in reality, even the deepest and darkest of pits can be surmounted by one singular move strong enough to shake the world to its very core. Harbinger is a spec that accentuates this concept. You see, after I made my Necro, I started to fall in love with Harbinger. The bouncing pistol shots, the blight stacks, letting me crit 15k plus with my staff, and the overall theme of a dark gunslinger. But when Vision gets executed poorly, you wind up with current age Harbinger. The community consensus from its birth could be summarized as consistently inconsistent. A dark gunslinger with kung fu for some reason. Elixirs used to be just chug and forget, until we complained it was too boring, so now you can shatter them on the floor. Pistols, broken bottles of varying substances. Thematically, you could almost call it a Florida man, especially since the Shroud has 2 movement skills to run from police, but I digress. After many hours of suffering these inconsistencies, I kept mulling around in my head how I would redesign it if I got the chance. And I remembered an old story I had come up with years ago. A true tale of a dark gunslinger. With that, let's redesign Harbinger, but cooler this time. So, to start us off, I've got to lay some ground rules for this video. I'm going to try my best to give you a visual aid in the form of clips from other games that showcase my mechanical meaning. Since, as Guild Wars 2 has shown, it bears no qualms about ripping things directly from other games and doing it much better. So in my redesign, I opted for just that. Rip the cool shit, fit it into Guild Wars 2, and see what we can make. I'll warn you ahead of time, this may not be balanced, but that's not my job. To reshape Necromancer, you must strike at its heart. The one singular piece that defines the class and its specializations. The Shroud. No longer attempted gun fu, but instead a harbinger of lead and hellfire. Allow me to introduce you to Gunslinger Shroud. Visually, it would corrupt you all black, just the same as the others, but it would create 2 phantom pistols out of pure darkness. You could also add the hat and trench coat for flavor if you really wanted to. To start, I wanted to play off the fact Harbingers already have a main hand pistol, firing that outside of Shroud, and firing your granted Shadow offhand in Shroud. Your auto attack, Gunslinger's brand, would fire a 3-pronged shotgun blast from the offhand Shadow pistol, similar to the current Harbinger Shroud 2, but with less projectiles. To keep in fashion with current design, it wouldn't have any blight modifiers either, but if you wanted to, you could add more projectiles if cast above the blight threshold, or even allow it to pierce. Coming to our second ability, it's seemingly the place across Necromancer that hits multiple times. Enter Gunslinger's Barrage. Basically, pistol thieves unload with an 8-second cooldown. However, should you spend blight, the cooldown gets halved. Couple that with Alacrity, and we have some wonderful long-range, heavy DPS capabilities. That becomes quite reliably usable should you use your blight correctly, also making use of both pistols together to devastating effect. So far, we have a simplistic concept. So let's turn it up a notch, shall we? When you think current Harbinger, what stands out? Let me know in the comments if you think differently, but to me, it's that fucking airborne knockup that always catches my ass in PvP. It's so iconic to me, I didn't want to remove it, but where do you place it? In theme, with a fast-paced gunslinger, we have heavy barrages of hellfire, but no capability of movement. So keeping in line with the current design of the third ability being movement, enter Gunslinger's Charge. In simple terms, it's a combat slide. Something seen across every shooter nowadays, just because it's so damn cool. Visually, should you not want to create new animations, I can envision Daredevil's Dash, or the new Elementalist Dash that got showcased in the weapon beta as well. Could also do that. However, should you spend Blight, current Harbinger's AoE knockup goes off at the end of the dash and gives you a flip over skill, letting you dash one more time before it goes on cooldown. Now, what's kind of funny is I wrote this before the Weapon Master beta, and Necro already has this on dual swords, so you can copy paste it pretty damn easily. Now, as this is the only crowd control on the kit, you're going to need to use it quite wisely. Do you double dash for space to unload? Do you dash in, knock up, and dash out? Or do you surprise your enemies with our fourth wildcard skill? So far, I'll be honest with you, we have a relatively standard gunslinger. Slides, barrages, shotgun shots. But where's the style, the flair, the individuality that brought the Wild West to life? Enter Soul Coin. In Mortal Kombat, there resides a character named Aaron Black, a gunslinger of immortal power who wields one of the coolest tricks I've ever seen. He flips a coin into the air and ricochets a bullet clean off it. So I thought to myself, how do I translate this to Necromancer? And then I hit the design jackpot. What if I ricocheted a bullet off a soul? This, my friends, is where it all comes together. The piece that makes my redesign stick and adds the skill expression. Soul Coin, a placeable orb on the ground that only the Necromancer can target. 2 charges, 10-second cooldown. I'll explain why that's relevant later. Let's start from the top. Gunslinger's brand, should it be targeted at a soul coin, would home in all its projectiles to bounce off the coin towards the nearest enemy in a shotgun blast. Gunslinger's barrage, when fired at a soul coin, redirects the whole slew of hellfire towards the target nearest the coin. Both of these allow you to create trick shots, going around cover in PvP, potentially extending your range up to 600 with the ricochet. You wind up with almost a gangplank barrel, but we are not done yet. Oh, no. I've saved the best interaction for last. Gunslinger's Charge. After you place a soul coin, Gunslinger's Charge flips over. It still operates the same, but now, on press, no matter where you are, it opens a hellfire rift and teleports you out of the coin's location, combat sliding towards the nearest enemy. And should there be no enemies, you simply slide forward out of the coin, allowing you to trick people, putting down a soul coin around cover, sliding in, popping the Harbinger knockup, and just mowing them down. So now, we have trickery. Now, we have style. Do you ricochet bullets off the coin to go around cover? Do you rip a hole through hell to charge into combat with the iconic Harbinger knockup? Do you use the increased range to harass from a distance? Do you use both charges of soul coin to dip in and out with your slides, since keep in mind you still keep the flip over dash reset, provided you spend Blight, letting you use the second charge of soul coin to get back out after the knockup lands? Or do you send them all back to hell with Death's Harbinger? Rounding out our final spot in the shroud, I give you Death's Harbinger, spinning 3 times in a whirlwind of lead and hellfire, or 5 times should you spend Blight. The iconic Reaper Ultimate makes its way into Guild Wars 2, in the form of the old blade-storming Arc Divider, guided not by blades nor fury, but by Grent's icy hand. No one can hide from the true Harbinger of Death. Slide out of your soul coin to knock up your opposition, to cleave them down to size with Death's Harbinger. Then place your secondary coin and use your flip-over Gunslinger's Charge to teleport back to safety and pepper them with lead all over again. Now, whilst the Shroud is my primary point of focus in this redesign, I also realized one final key point that would create a plethora of build diversity. All this Blight interaction, whether via elixirs or the Shroud, and yet no Blight interaction on the pistol at all. With the recent Weapon Master update, you'll have to start creating extra benefits for wielding weapons on their correct specializations, or you wind up with Pistol Scourge all over again. So, I pose you this. Everything's about dumping Blight. But you see, I made a rather interesting Staff Harbinger that can crit up to 15k thanks to 25% strike damage from a singular Harbinger trait should I stay at 25 Blight. So, my additions? The pistol gains benefits from not spending Blight. Pistol 1, should it be cast at 25 Blight, will now ricochet up to 5 targets instead of just 3. Pistol 2, the Barrage, with 25 Blight, will now also ricochet, and Pistol 3 with 25 Blight would fire a stunning cone behind the target of impact, as well as around them, single-handedly creating a whole new concept within Harbinger. As now you have 2 separate styles, Shrouded Blight Spender or Unshrouded Blight Maintainer. Do you cut down your opposition before they get close, or do you slide into combat to show them death is close at hand? I ask you, my friend, do you have what it takes to become a desperado wielding hellfire without mercy? Or will you fall and become a soul coin yourself?